Hello and welcome to our yin yoga practice. So for our practice today, if you've got yoga blocks or a bolster, we'll have those handy beside the mat. If not, we can just improvise with bed pillows or cushions, whatever you've got laying around the house, as long as it's nice and safe and supportive for you. So wherever we are, we're going to find a nice, comfortable seated position. So for you, it might be crossed legs. I'm sitting up on my bolster here. It might be legs out in front. Whatever's going to help you to feel nice and comfortable and supported to start. Wherever we are, we've got the eyes closed. And we'll just take the opportunity here at the start of our practice to really settle into the practice, to fully arrive here on your mat. Bringing your awareness to your physical body. Just running a scan through your body, and without judgment, just notice how you're feeling through your body. Move your awareness now to your emotional body and how you're feeling. And now bring your awareness to the natural rhythm of your breath, without forcing or changing your breath in any way. Just observing the way in which your breath is flowing through your body. Just notice if the breath feels free flowing throughout your body. Perhaps it feels a little bit stuck. Just observing. We'll now start to consciously lengthen out through our breath. On your next inhale, breathing through the nose, into the chest, the ribs, down into the lower belly. Smooth and steady exhale. Moving through that again, deep inhale all the way down into the lower belly. Smooth, steady exhale. And we'll continue to breathe in this way for the next few breaths. As we move through our practice, we want to maintain that really deep, even, rhythmic breath. As we inhale, we draw in prana, life force energy. And as we exhale, we're releasing any stagnant energy from the body. We can release any tension we may be holding in the body. After you take your next exhalation, return now to the natural breath. And just notice if your breath feels any different. The theme of our practice today is around curiosity or becoming curious. I'll share a quote with you. It's by a man by the name of Jason Crandall, and he says that yoga is the perfect opportunity to be curious about who you are. So as we move through our practice today, I invite you just to become curious about your true nature. Become curious about how your body feels in the pose, around the way that your breath moves through your body. And let's spend another 3 of those deep breaths here before we start to move our body. As we inhale, we can gently open the eyes. Bring the hands to heart center in Anjali Mudra, prayer position. Take an exhale here. As we inhale, we'll draw the arms up and overhead. Let the gaze follow your fingertips. Exhale, hands down through heart center. Moving through that again as we inhale. Exhale, hands through heart center. Twice more of the same here with your breath, just starting to bring some gentle heat and movement into the body. Now from here, we'll come over onto hands and knees. Knees under the line of your hips. Hands just forward of the shoulders. We're coming into cat-cow. As we inhale, belly drops, gaze lifts, lift up through your heart center. Exhale, tuck your chin, rounding your back out. Moving through again, inhale through front body. Exhale, back body opening. Twice more of the same here with your breath. So just starting to get that heat, that energy, that movement here into the body, into the spinal column. Inhale, come back to a neutral spine. As we exhale, take a little look over our right shoulder. So gently drawing the right shoulder and the right hip towards each other. Inhale to center. Exhale, take a little look over your left shoulder. Inhale to center. Once more to each side, working with your breath. Inhale, come back to center. Bring the knees really wide here, toes are touching, hips to heels. Arms along, third eye to the mat. We'll pause here and forward stretch for 3 breaths. Just center yourself here, reconnect to your breath. As we inhale, gently open the eyes, lift the head, walk the fingertips back. And from here, we're coming straight into our first yin pose. So our first pose today is going to be Anahatasana, which is melting heart pose. So I'll first show you the full expression of the pose, and then I'll show you how you can bring some props in if you need some extra support. So we're over onto hands and knees, and then we start to walk the hands all the way forward until we can rest the third eye down onto the mat. So here is the full expression of the pose. So you might feel quite comfortable there, bearing in mind that we will be here for quite a number of breaths, a few minutes. So just decide here if you can hold that pose for that period of time. If you think that you might like some support from your bolster or your cushions, 2 options here. Once we're on the hands and knees, You can walk the hands all the way forward once again and either rest the heart center down onto your support. Maybe you'd like to rest your third eye down onto the support. So maybe have a play around with those two. Notice if either of those variations are going to work. If it's just a little bit too strong on your chest or your shoulders with the arms extended, we also have the option here to bring a bend into the elbows. So just run your forearms along beside each other and then rest the head here. So there's quite a few different options here. Maybe have a play around, see which one's going to feel best for you as we hold. Once we're there, we've got the eyes closed and we'll resolve to remain still here. So here in melting heart pose, we can feel straight away here that we're working really strongly into the chest and the shoulders. And as the name of the pose implies, we want to allow our heart center to melt a little bit closer towards our mat with each exhale. And we want to allow this melting feeling not only from the front of the body, but also from the back of the body. So that space between your shoulder blades, allow this part of your body to surrender, to sink deeper towards your mat with each exhale. If you've got the variation where the arms are extended, we're getting nice stimulation here through all of those little meridians that run through the arms. We've got the lung, large intestine, small intestine, the heart, pericardium, triple warmer. So there's a lot going on there. Very powerful pose. We're also stimulating here the stomach and the gallbladder meridians that run through the front of our body. Breathe deeply all the way down into your lower belly. Breathe deeply into your back body. Feel your back and side ribs expand and contract with your breath. Just notice if you are holding on to any tension, particularly in your shoulders, your neck, or your lower belly. And if you find that you are, we'll make a conscious effort now just to surrender. We've been here for a little while, so you'll start to feel this beautiful strong opening through your chest, your shoulders, through your heart center. Feel all this clean, fresh energy that we're bringing into the heart space, into the Anahata chakra. Let's spend another 5 of our deep breaths here before we start to transition out of the pose. Make them count, breathing deeply all the way down into your lower belly, all the way down into your back body. as we inhale, very slowly we start to lift the head, walk the fingertips back. Now you can either come into a comfortable seated position to pause here. You might choose to come to lay down on your mat. We're just pausing in between each of our poses just to give ourselves the opportunity just to notice and absorb the effects of each pose. Feel the space that we've created here through the chest, the shoulders, through the heart center. If you've come to lay down, very, very slowly begin to roll yourself out to the side. Come back up into your seated position. Now from here, we're coming into Balasana, which is our child's pose. So we want to bring the knees really wide. So I'll give you a few options for this one again. So you might not need any props at all, in which case you'd have your knees really wide, toes are touching, hips to heels. We'd come to fold forward to release the third eye down to the mat, and then the arms rest gently beside the body. You might need to turn your head slightly from one side to the other, and then if you take that option, we'll change sides halfway through. If you want a really comfortable, really supported variation of the pose, we can now use our props. So again, I've got my bolster, I've got it lined up with the long edge of the mat. You might even like to pop some height onto your hips. So again, a cushion or a blanket so you can sit down on your sit bones. Take an inhale here, draw length into the spine. As we exhale, we're coming to fold forward. So here again, you can rest the arms beside the body. I'm going to turn my head to one side and then change halfway through. It might feel better for you to keep your head centered. Just see what feels best for you and your body. And again, once we've found a comfortable spot, we've got the eyes closed and we'll resolve to remain still. And the reason that we do this, we've got the eyes closed, we remain still in the physical body, is that it gives us the opportunity to really draw our awareness deep within. We're withdrawing the senses, we're reducing the amount of external distraction that we might have that's going to take us away from the internal work. So here again, just make sure that you're not holding on to any tension anywhere in your body. If you're using a prop, just allow your front body to melt, to surrender down into the support of your prop. This pose, child's pose, is a pose that we'll often find ourselves in no matter what style of yoga that we're practicing. That's because it is a resting pose. It is a nice restorative, supportive pose. So we want to take full advantage of that here. Allow yourself to feel supported here in this pose. Allow yourself to feel rejuvenated, restored. Breathe deeply into your back body. Feel your back and side ribs expand and contract with your breath. If you've got your head turned to one side, we'll just gently lift the head and turn our head over to the opposite side with as little disturbance as possible. And then just allow yourself to melt back down into either your mat or your prop. Just notice what your mind is doing here. If you find that your mind begins to wander, we can just gently draw it back. Bring your awareness back to your breath. Use your breath as your anchor. Let's spend another 5 of our deep breaths here before we start to transition out of the pose. As we inhale very slowly, we begin to lift the head, walk the hands back. Find either your comfortable seated position or we can come to lay down on the mat. Keeping the eyes closed. Just give yourself that space just to integrate, just to notice the effects of our child's pose. As we inhale, gently open the eyes. If you've come to lay down, gently just roll out to the side, come back up to your seated position. We're on the sit bones and we're coming now into Pigeon Pose. So we're going to have the right leg forward and we've got a nice square shape with that front leg. And we're going to start with a little square shape with the back leg too. So this is the slightly gentler option. So you've got a big bend in the front knee and you've also got a big bend in the back knee. We have the option, if you've got a cushion there or your yoga block and you'd like to pop it to the outside of that front hip, so that'll be the right hip, that's an option for you here. If you feel okay here, we are coming to fold forward. So I'm going to use my bolster here again. You can use your cushions as support when we come to fold forward. If you've got quite open hips and you think you might like to take the fuller expression of the pose, you have the option to extend that back leg straight behind you. So wherever we are, we want to be fairly squared off to the front, so hips and shoulders. As we inhale, we'll draw length into the spine. As we exhale, we're coming to fold forward here. So again, you might keep your head centered. You might feel that you want to turn your head to one side or the other. If you haven't got a prop there and you're just down on your mat, you might pop one hand on top of the other. Use that as a prop for your third eye to rest. Have a wriggle around, find your comfortable spot, and then once we're there, we'll try as much as we can to remain still in the pose. So straight away we can feel this really strong opening through the outside of the right hip. So we want to breathe into this space. Just to relax your upper body here. So your upper body is nice and relaxed. It's melting down towards your mat. After you've been here for a little while, you might start to feel that a little bit more relaxation, a little bit more space will begin to be created in that hip space. So again, we're now working the stomach and the gallbladder meridians on the outsides of the legs. So they come out through the outsides of the legs and then up through the front of the body. And metaphysically, our hips are the place in the body that we store our emotional baggage and often stress and tension as well. So while we're holding this really strong hip opener, notice if any emotions start to arise for you. And if that does happen for you, we can just acknowledge that it's there and then gently release, let it go. We don't need to attach a story to it. We can just be the observer. Recall the theme of our practice, curiosity. Let's become curious as we hold this strong hip opener, and we'll move over to the other side in a moment. Be curious about the way that this is affecting your body on a physical level, on an energetic level. A few more breaths here before we start to move ourselves once again. As we inhale, very slowly start to lengthen the spine, walk the fingertips back. Now we're going to gently just swing out onto that right hip. Bring the left foot forward. Before we come over to the other side, we're just going to pause in the center, close the eyes down. Just observing that right hip. Notice the space that we've created. Feel the energy moving through your right hip. Once you feel ready, inhale, gently open the eyes. Okay, coming over to the left side now. So bring your left leg forward, the right leg comes behind you. So remember option 1, big bend in the left knee and also in the right knee. So that's the slightly not as deep variation, option 1. Option 2, if you've got those open hips and you want to come a little bit deeper into the pose, extend that right leg behind you. square yourself off to the front. Get that prop for your outer left hip if you need it on this side, so you can pop a cushion under that space. Just decide here if you want your prop in front of your body. Inhale, draw length into the spine. As we exhale, we're coming to fold forward. And again, just find a spot for your head to rest. So maybe it's centered, maybe it's turned to one side, or you've got one hand on top of the other, using it as a prop for your third eye. Have that little wriggle, find your comfortable spot. Once we're there, we've got the eyes closed. We're still in the pose. We're still in our body, which allows us to cultivate stillness in our mind. Bring your awareness to your outer left hip. So this is where we're going to feel the sensation here. So again, we want to breathe into this space. And just observing, again, without attaching a story to it, just observing if it feels different on this side than it did on the right side. And oftentimes, particularly when you're practicing yin yoga, because we've got the time and the space to really check in with ourselves, with our body, we will find a slight imbalance between the left and the right sides of the body. So one side of the body might feel a little bit more open than the other. And this could be for a number of different reasons. It might be you've had an injury on one side of the body. It might be because you habitually use one side of your body a little bit more than the other. Settling into the pose, bringing some fresh, clean energy into that outer left hip. Breathe into this space. Let's spend another 5 of our really deep breaths here before we start to transition out of the pose. Inhale, slowly start to lift the head. Walk your hands back. Gently swing out onto your left hip. If you've got a prop there, just pop it off to the side. We're coming to lay down on the mat just for a few breaths so we can pause between our next pose. Notice and absorb the effects of that pose on each side of the body. Feel the space, feel the energy through your outer hips. As we inhale, gently open the eyes. Very slowly, just bring yourself up to sitting temporarily. We're going to use our props, so either a bolster if you have one, or a pillow or cushion or two, just so we've got some height under the upper body. We're coming into Supta Kanasana. So we're turning to face, our lower back's going to intercept the end of either our cushion or the bolster there. If you have blocks, you might like to pop one block to each side. If you've got spare cushions there, you might choose to keep them either side of the mat. So we're coming to lay down. So you might just have to have a little wriggle around again and just find where your upper body is going to feel comfortable and supported in the pose. We're going to have the soles of the feet together, the knees drop out wide. So this is where you might not need any props, but if you would like to have a bit more of a supported option, this is where you might use your blocks or your pillows and just pop them to the outsides of the knees. And then that way it just takes a little bit of pressure off the hips and it's a little bit more supportive. If you really want a nice strong opening for the hips, we won't use the props. So just a little tip, the closer that your feet are to the body, generally the more deeper opening that you're going to feel in the hips. So if at any stage it does become a little bit too strong, you can move your feet away from the body and that's just going to lighten that opening a little bit. So once you've had your wriggle, you're feeling comfortable here, again we'll close the eyes down. You might rest your arms beside you, you might bring the arms up and overhead, just see what feels good in your body today. So in our last two poses, we were working the outer hips. We've now moved the opening into the inner hips. So just bring your awareness to your inner hips. Notice if you can feel that you're holding any tension in this space. It's quite common for us to hold tension, particularly in the inner hips. And if you can feel that you're holding on to tension, we'll make a conscious effort now to start to release, surrender. Allow your knees to fall a little bit wider with each exhale. So here in this pose, we're working the liver, kidney and spleen meridian. So they run through the insides of the legs. So we can just visualize these meridians getting flushed, cleansed, detoxed. Moving to the upper body, so because we're using our props here, we've got a nice open front body, a nice open heart center. So we want to breathe deeply into the front body. Feel the rise and fall of your chest with your breath. So when we open the front body up in this way, it is quite a good pose to get energy into the lungs, into the thyroid. We can feel as if we're illuminating all of our 7 main chakras with energy. And in particular, I want you to bring your focus, your awareness to your heart chakra, right in the center of your chest. It's represented by the color green, so we can visualize this. Visualize your heart chakra being restored with energy. visualize an open channel of energy moving inward and outward from your heart center. And it is said that our heart chakra is arguably the most important of the 7 main chakras. So it's right in the middle of the lower 3 and the upper 3 chakras. This is a place from which we can give and receive love. We can experience joy, compassion, benevolence. Notice how it feels for you. Again, get curious as to how you feel in this pose. We've got the hips really nice and open. We've got the heart nice and open. We're being vulnerable. We're opening ourselves up to Father Sky. Let's spend another 5 of our deep breaths here again before we start to move our body once more. As we inhale, we can gently open the eyes. Just bring your hands to the outsides of your thighs so that you can gently draw your knees in towards each other. And then we can gently bring ourselves up to sitting. If you've got your prop there, we'll just gently pop it to the side of the mat, and then we're coming all the way back down onto the mat, pausing here for a few breaths. Give yourself the opportunity to notice and absorb the effects of that last pose. Feel the space and energy in your hips, in your heart space. Once you feel ready, use your inhale to gently open the eyes. Just bring a little bend into the knees. We're coming into a twist here, so we won't be here for quite as long. We'll cross the right leg over the top of the left. Arms rest gently beside the body. Take an inhale here. As we exhale, we'll drop our knees over towards the left. We want to make sure that the right shoulder stays grounded here. The right arm will extend out to shoulder height. Now, if that's a little bit too strong, you might choose just to stack one knee on top of the other. You might choose to bring your prop and pop it under your knees just to give you a little bit of extra height here. Your head can either remain in the center or gently fall towards your right. So here in this pose, we've got a nice rotation here through the spinal column. Should feel pretty nice here also for your lower back. So this pose, any rotating poses are very cleansing, very detoxing for both the physical body, so our digestive system, but also for the emotional body as well. So if there's anything that you're holding on to that's no longer serving you and you know that you need to release, now's your opportunity to do so. We are coming towards the end of our practice, so our awareness is drawn deep within. Your breath might be starting to become softer. On your next inhale, very slowly start to unwrap, coming back to center. Just pause in the center here, realign your spine so that your spine's nice and long on your mat. And then once you feel ready, we'll come over to the other side. So across the left leg over the top of the right, arms beside us. Take an inhale here. As we exhale, we'll drop our knees over towards the right side of the mat. And again, if that's a little bit too strong, maybe you'll just stack your knees on top of each other. Maybe you will take a hold of your bolster or your cushion, just a little bit of extra height. Make sure that your left shoulder stays grounded. Again, we can either have the head centered or allow it to gently fall towards the left. And on this side here again, we can visualize this cleansing, this detoxing action here for the physical and emotional bodies. Wringing out what no longer serves our highest good. As we inhale, gently start to unwrap, coming back to center. Just realign the spine here again, pausing here, just observing, noticing any effects from our last two poses. Once you feel ready, we're drawing our knees in towards the chest. Take a hold of the front of the knees and we'll just start to roll around in one direction. So nice massage here for the lower back. It's also cleansing for the kidneys. Gently release. And we're setting ourselves up now for our final rest in Shavasana. So if there's any final movements or poses that you would like to take before coming into your Shavasana, now's your opportunity to do so. We can bring any props onto our mat that we like to use. It's quite nice to pop your pillow or your bolster under the line of your knees. If it's cool where you are, you might pop a blanket over your body or pop some socks and a jumper on. The body temperature will start to drop once we start to slip into our Shavasana. So once we're here, we've got the legs out nice and long in front of us. We can just allow the feet to flop out to the side. Just make sure that your spine's nice and long on your mat. The arms can rest beside the body, palms facing up towards the sky as a sign of surrender. The eyes are closed down if they aren't already. And just run a scan from the tips of your toes all the way up to the crown of your head, and make sure that you're not holding on to any residual tension throughout your physical body. If you find that you are, just make a conscious effort now to release and surrender. Just allow the weight of your body to become heavy on your mat. This is our time to rest, to restore. There's nothing else we need to think of here. We can remain present here in our practice, connected to our breath. Very slowly now we start to bring our awareness back. And we'll start first by deepening the breath. breathe into the entire length of your body. Bring your hands to rest, palms facing down over the navel center. Breathe into this space. Slide your hands up now to rest, palms facing down over the heart center. And feel the warmth from your hands melting down into your heart. Invite a nice deep breath into the body, stretching out through arms and legs. Bending your knees will gently roll out to the right hand side. Just pause here for a few moments. And only once you feel ready, you can bring yourself up into your comfortable seated position. Eyes remain closed. We'll draw the hands to heart center in Anjali Mudra, bowing the head down. As we close our practice together, we'll internally practice gratitude for the many blessings in our life. And I'd just like to honor you for showing up for yourself, showing up for your practice today. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Namaste.